I never thought I'd be the guy catching his wife cheating, especially not in a way that hits so deep it feels like my chest is caving in. We'd been married for 3 years, and up until now, I'd trusted her completely. Or so I thought. It all started a couple of days ago when I decided to finally update my phone's software. Nothing unusual, just a quick morning task before heading out to work. I've done it hundreds of times before, but this time, I accidentally left her phone on the kitchen table instead of handing it to her. I was about to grab my coat when I saw it blinking with a new notification. A message from someone named Chris. It was right there on the lock screen, just waiting for me. Out of curiosity, I hesitated, then unlocked it. I didn't mean to invade her privacy, but I was surprised to see a series of messages that weren't exactly friendly. They weren't just friendly, though. They were flirty, borderline suggestive. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one read. "Miss you already," another one said. My stomach clenched. My fingers went cold. I scrolled a bit further. The messages went back at least 3 months, almost every day. She'd been hiding this. I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. I've known her since college, and she's always been a little secretive about her phone, but I never thought she'd go this far. The words on that screen weren't just casual, they were intimate, like a secret world they'd built just for each other. I sat there frozen, the phone's cold metal pressing into my palm, my sweat cooling on my forehead. I could feel my heart pounding, that tight, sick feeling bubbling up. My brain raced. How many nights had she been sneaking around? How long had this been going on, and why? I wasn't the jealous type, but this felt like a betrayal I couldn't forgive. My mind kept replaying that first message I saw over and over. I was stunned, hurt, angry. I looked around the kitchen, trying to gather my thoughts. Everything in the room was so normal: coffee mug, bread box, the faint scent of cinnamon from her baking earlier. But inside, I felt like I was drowning. I slid the phone back onto the table, trying to process what I'd just seen. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was just some harmless flirtation, but the tone of those messages. No, this was something more. I remembered her leaving her phone on the counter that morning. I'd seen her message notifications pop up a few times, but I'd never looked. I always trusted her. Now that trust was shredded. My palms were sweaty and my stomach felt like it's been punched. It was a sickening mix of shock and rage. I knew I had to confront her. I just didn't know how or when. Honestly, I wasn't even sure what I'd say, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. Later that evening, she came home from work, humming that same cheerful tune she always did. I was sitting on the couch, her phone in my hand, pretending to read. I didn't want her to notice I'd seen everything. She looked at me, that bright smile on her face, and I saw a flicker of something: nervousness, guilt. I couldn't tell anymore. "Hey babe," she said, dropping her purse on the table. "How was your day?" I looked up, feeling my jaw tighten. "It was fine," I said, voice flat. "Can we talk?" Her eyes darted away for a second, like she already knew what this was about. "Sure, what's up?" I held her phone up. "Who's Chris?" Her face froze. She looked like she'd been caught in a trap. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," I snapped. "I saw your messages. You've been texting him for months, haven't you?" Her smile faltered. "It's not what you think. It's just some stupid flirtation. It didn't mean anything." That's when I felt my fists clench. I wanted to scream, but instead I managed to keep my voice steady. "No, it's clear it meant a lot. You lied to me. You betrayed me." She looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't care. Inside, I was boiling. I'd always believed in honesty, in loyalty. This was a betrayal I never expected. Now I had to decide what to do next. But one thing was certain: I wasn't just going to brush this under the rug. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, heard her voice trying to deny it. I was filled with a bitter mix of heartbreak and rage. I needed a plan. She thought she'd gotten away with it, but I was done being naive. I wasn't going to let this slide. She crossed a line, and I was going to make her regret it. But what exactly was I going to do? That was the next question I needed to answer. I needed to come up with something that would send a clear message, something she wouldn't forget. I just had to figure out how to turn this pain into something my wife wouldn't see coming. The next morning, I woke up with that heavy weight pressing on my chest. My mind was racing, replaying everything from the night before. But now I was more determined than ever. I couldn't just sit here and stew in anger and hurt. I needed to act. The first thing I did was get my head straight. I took a deep breath, felt the cold air fill my lungs, and made a decision. If she thought she could betray me and walk away without consequences, she had another thing coming. I decided to start with some basic groundwork. I needed evidence, something concrete, something she couldn't deny. I remembered her phone. I had to see what other secrets she was hiding. That meant I'd have to get into her email, her secret accounts, whatever it took. I spent the rest of the morning quietly watching her, feeling every small movement she made. Her face looked too smooth, too innocent for someone with secrets, but I knew better now. Later, as she was in the kitchen, I casually asked, "Did you delete those messages from your phone?" She hesitated, then brushed past me. "What are you talking about? I didn't delete anything." "Really?" I said, voice edged with quiet fury, "because I saw some of them last night. They're still there, aren't they?" She turned sharply, eyes flashing with irritation. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. I told you it's just some stupid flirtation. I wasn't cheating." I didn't buy it, not for a second, but I needed more proof. I decided I'd wait until she left for work, then I'd do some digging. I knew her password. She'd told me once jokingly when I was drunk. It was her birthday, some dumb pet name combination, something stupid. I kept that in mind. That afternoon, I waited until she was out the door before I made my move. I snuck into her study where she kept her laptop. It was open as usual because she never really closed it when she left the room. I slid into her chair, my heart pounding. Every second I hesitated felt like a lifetime, but I forced myself to stay calm. This wasn't about revenge just yet. It was about uncovering everything. I typed in her email password and it unlocked. I scrolled through her inbox, her sent folder, her drafts. Nothing jumped out at me immediately. But then I remembered her social media accounts. I logged into those too. It was like peeling back layers of a carefully constructed lie. I saw messages from Chris, more than just flirtation. There were plans, secret meetings, promises. My stomach clenched again, but this time it was anger. I printed out some of the messages, took screenshots, and saved them on a USB drive. That was my ammunition. She might try to deny it again, but I had the proof now. Everything was there, proof of months of betrayal, hidden behind a facade of normalcy. When she came home that evening, I was waiting in the living room. She looked surprised when she saw my face, tense and serious. "What are you doing?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Just looking into things," I said coldly. "You lied to me. You said it was just some flirtation, but the truth is you've been cheating on me with Chris behind my back." Her face drained of color and her hands shook slightly. "It's not what it looks like. I never wanted you to find out like this." I clenched my fists, feeling the heat rise up. "It's exactly what it looks like, and I've got the proof. I want you to know I'm not stupid. I know everything now." Her voice cracked. "Please, I didn't mean for it to get this far. I was stupid. I messed up, but I love you." That was a lie I refused to believe. I'd heard enough. I was done pretending. My mind was already swirling with plans, ways to make her regret this. I wasn't about to let her walk away unscathed. That night, I went to bed knowing I'd soon execute a plan that would shake her world. I'd spent years building a life with her, trusting her. Now I was about to turn that trust into her worst nightmare. I didn't care what it took. She was going to pay for this betrayal. The first step was just a matter of timing, but when the moment came, she wouldn't see it coming. And she had no idea that I was already preparing something that would hit her just as hard as she'd hit me. I was done being the betrayed husband. It was time she saw what true revenge looked like. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around the same thought, how to make her understand that betrayal comes with consequences. I knew I wanted her to feel the same gut punch I'd felt when I first saw those messages. But I also knew I couldn't just confront her with everything right away. That wouldn't be enough. I needed a plan, something calculated, something that would make her realize she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. The next morning I woke up early, feeling that adrenaline buzz. I got my phone, pulled up my notes, and started mapping out my strategy. It had to be precise. She thought she'd gotten away with her secret, but I was going to make sure she paid for it in a way she'd never forget. First, I decided to gather more evidence, something that would make her realize I knew everything. I remembered her secret email account she used for work and social media. I dug into those, finding old conversations she had with Chris. They'd been exchanging photos, flirtatious texts, even plans to meet up again. It was clear she'd been hiding more than I thought. I took screenshots, saved everything, and kept it all in a hidden folder on my laptop. My plan was to use this as leverage. I wasn't going to threaten her outright. I wanted her to see the depth of what I'd uncovered, to understand I wasn't just upset. I was furious, and I was going to make her regret her choices. As I sat there, my palms slick with sweat, I realized I needed to set the stage. I wanted her to feel the full weight of betrayal, not just my anger but her own guilt. I decided to stage a situation that would force her to confront her actions head-on. Later that afternoon, I told her I was going out to grab some groceries. She looked relieved, almost happy, like she thought I was just going to let this slide. As soon as she left, I set my plan into motion. I'd already prepared the evidence, printouts, screenshots, all carefully hidden. I wanted her to find it herself in a way that would shake her to her core. I left a trail, one that would lead her to my plan. I sent a message from her email to her own account, pretending to be someone else. It said, "I know everything. It's only a matter of time before you're exposed." Then I left her a note on the coffee table. "Check your email. It's time we had a real talk." When she returned, I was in the living room, pretending to be casual. She looked nervous instantly, her eyes flickering to the note and then to her phone. She hesitated before opening her email. I saw her glance at it, then her hand trembled as she clicked. Her face went pale as she saw the messages. Her eyes darted back and forth, reading the evidence I'd collected. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. What is this?" she stammered, voice trembling. I didn't say a word, just watched her, feeling the satisfaction build inside me. The dam had broken. Her secret was out, and now she had to face the consequences. I saw tears welling up in her eyes, but I didn't care. Her crying was just icing on the cake. "Is this true?" I asked sharply. "All these messages with Chris? You've been lying to me, sneaking around, cheating. How long has this been going on?" She tried to deny it, but I cut her off. "Don't bother, I have all the proof, and I'm not letting you get away with this." She fell to her knees, sobbing now. "I never meant for it to get this far. I was stupid. I love you, I swear, please forgive me." That was the moment I knew I was ready to take the next step. I'd been patient, but enough was enough. She'd betrayed me in the worst way, and I was going to make sure she paid. Not with violence or threats, but with something just as effective, something that would make her understand she'd lost everything she ever cared about. My plan was simple but cruel, something she'd never see coming. A slow, calculated revenge that would leave her trembling long after. But for now, I just smiled coldly and told her, "You're going to regret this, I promise. But I want you to understand I'm not just angry. I'm done with the lies." And as I sat there watching her, crying and broken, I knew I had already begun. The pieces were in motion. She'd be the one to regret ever crossing me. I just had to wait for the right moment to strike. The days that followed were a blur. I kept my distance, but I was never really absent from her mind or hers from mine. Every time I saw her, I saw the guilt smeared across her face like a stain she couldn't wash away. It was satisfying in a way, knowing I had her cornered, but I also felt that gnawing edge of something darker, a need for more than just her remorse. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, to understand that her betrayal wasn't just a mistake. It was a wound that would bleed long after she thought she'd moved on. I continued gathering evidence, this time more subtly. I wanted to push her further into the corner, make her realize just how much I knew. I checked her phone secretly, kept tabs on her social media. Every message, every glance, every shift of her body told me she was unraveling. She started avoiding me more, her excuses growing thinner. I could see her trying to pretend everything was normal, but her eyes betrayed her. One evening she came home early from work, her face pale, her hands nervously wringing her purse. She looked like she was about to fall apart. I decided it was time to press her further, to make her confront what was really happening inside her. "Hey," I said softly but with a sharpness underneath. "We need to talk." She swallowed hard. "About what?" "About everything," I said, closing the distance. "About Chris, about how long this has been going on." Her lips trembled. I don't know what you mean." "Oh, come on," I said, my voice steady. "Don't insult my intelligence. I know everything. I saw the messages. I know about the meetings, the plans. Everything. Her face crumpled and she looked like she was fighting a battle with herself. Please, don't do this. I was stupid. I didn't want to hurt you. I shook my head slowly. No, that's not enough because you did hurt me. And I want you to understand that I'm not just upset, I'm done playing nice. You lost my trust and I'm about to make sure you regret that. Her knees buckled slightly and she sank into a chair. What do you want from me? I took a deep breath, feeling the cold resolve settle in my chest. I want you to see what happens when you betray someone who loves you. I want to show you that actions have consequences, and I want you to know that I'm not the same man you thought you married. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a USB drive. This, I said, contains everything I found, every message, every detail. I want you to think about that. Because I can't stay with someone who lied to me, who cheated on me. But I'm not just cutting you loose. I'm about to do something that will make you regret ever crossing that line. Her eyes widened in fear. What are you talking about? You'll see, I said with a cold smile, soon enough. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Please, she begged, voice trembling. Just give me a chance to fix this. I swear I'll change. I shook my head. It's too late for that. You had your chance. Now I'm going to give you a taste of what real consequences feel like. That night I sat down at my computer and prepared everything. The message I was about to send was designed to cut her to the core. I didn't want her to mistake my silence for weakness. She'd think her lies could save her, but I was about to make damn sure she understood she'd lost more than just my trust. She'd lost her marriage, her stability, her sense of safety. When I finally pressed send, the message went out to her email account, but disguised as someone else. It read simply, "You thought you could hide this forever, but I know everything, and I'm about to show you just how much." The next morning I could tell she'd seen it. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. She looked at me with wide eyes, almost begging. "Please," she whispered, voice cracking, "don't do this. I'll fix it, I swear." I looked her straight in the eyes, feeling nothing but cold resolve. "You should thought of that before you cheated. Now it's too late. I'm done. And you're going to regret this every single day." Her shoulders sagged. She knew I wasn't bluffing anymore. I'd already begun the process of making her pay, and I could see she realized it. The betrayal had opened a door I was never supposed to open, and I had every intention of walking through it to the end. No more apologies, no more excuses. Just the aftermath of her choices, laid bare and unforgiving. Over the next few days, I stayed silent, watching her unravel. She became increasingly paranoid, checking her phone every few minutes, her eyes darting around as if she expected me to jump out at any moment. I didn't confront her directly again. Instead, I let her stew in her own guilt, in the fear that I might reveal even more. Every glance she threw my way felt like a challenge, and I was more than ready to meet it. Meanwhile, I finalized my plan. I had the evidence, I had the leverage, and I knew exactly what I wanted her to experience. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about making her understand that betrayal has a cost. I wanted her to feel that sinking realization, her secrets exposed, her marriage hanging by a thread, her world crumbling in slow motion. One evening I came home early from work. The house was eerily quiet and I could smell the faint aroma of her perfume lingering in the air. I found her in the living room, sitting on the sofa, visibly tense. She looked up as I entered, her eyes darting to the USB drive I'd placed on the table. "Did you really think I'd forget what you did?" I asked coldly, voice low but sharp enough to cut through the silence. She swallowed hard, her hands trembling. "Please, just listen to me. I'll fix this. I swear I will." I shook my head slowly. "No, you had your chance. You used me, lied to me, secretly messaged with another man. There are no more chances. This is your wake-up call." I stepped closer, making sure she understood I was serious. "You see, I've set everything up. The emails, the messages, everything. I even intercepted some of your calls. I want you to see what betrayal really looks like because you're about to hear it." She looked like she was about to cry again. "You're doing all this because you're angry, but I love you." "Please just give me a chance to save it," I interrupted. "Love doesn't mean cheating. Love isn't hiding things behind my back. This isn't about me being angry, it's about you losing my respect completely." I pressed play on my phone, and what followed was a recording I secretly made. It was her voice, talking on the phone with Chris, planning their next meeting. Her words were desperate, pleading, and full of promises she'd never kept. Her voice cracked, trembling with guilt and shame. Watching her face as she listened to herself, I saw a girl I no longer recognized. When the recording ended, I looked her in the eyes. "Now, you get to hear what you've done. This is what betrayal sounds like, your own voice, your own lies." She was trembling hard now, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please," she whispered, voice cracking. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad. I was so stupid, I thought I could hide it forever." I took a step back. I'd had enough of the lies, enough of the pretending. It was time for the final blow. "You should know," I said, voice unwavering, "this isn't just a punishment, it's a lesson, and I want you to remember it forever." I calmly picked up the USB, then looked at her one last time. "You're leaving tonight, pack your things and go. I want you out of this house by midnight." Her face crumpled completely now. "Please don't do this, I'll do anything, just don't kick me out." I shook my head. "There's nothing you can do. You broke my trust, and I won't be the fool anymore. You're done." As she gathered her things, I watched her with a mixture of satisfaction and regret. Not regret for the act itself, but for what I'd lost, the life we'd built, the future I'd envisioned. But betrayal leaves only one choice: cut the poison out completely. By midnight, she was gone. The house felt empty, colder somehow. I sat in the living room, the silence deafening. I'd taken her keys, her phone, and all the evidence I'd gathered. I'd cut off the thread that held her to my life. Standing there, I finally allowed myself a deep breath. It hurt more than I thought it would, losing her, losing what I believed was real. But I also knew I'd taken back control. This was my closure. Her betrayal was the end of us. And I learned one thing: trust isn't something you give blindly. It's something earned, fragile, and when broken, almost impossible to fix. The pain fades, but the lesson remains. Never ignore the warning signs, because once trust shatters, the damage is irreversible. Sitting alone in the quiet of my now empty house, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The chaos of the past week had finally settled, leaving me with a hollow space where trust used to be. I kept my hands busy, packing her things into a box, feeling the weight of every item I placed inside. The pillow she'd always loved, her favorite book she'd brought me on our wedding day, even the tiny jewelry box she kept her grandmother's necklace in. It all felt so final, like a chapter I was closing forever. As I sealed the box, I took one last deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. It was over. The betrayal, the lies, the secret meetings, all of it behind me now. I stacked the box, grabbed her keys, and headed to the front door. The night air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain that had just passed. It smelled like cleansing, like washing away the mess of what had been. I turned the key in the lock one last time, locking away the house that once held so many memories. I looked around at the empty rooms, silent, still, and felt a strange sense of closure. I'd pour myself into work, into friends, into rebuilding what I'd lost. But for now, I needed to do something symbolic, something final. I took the box of her belongings and walked to the curb. With a steady hand, I placed it on the ground, then slowly pulled out the keys that had once symbolized our future. I looked down at them, cold and unfeeling. "Goodbye," I whispered, dropping them into the box. The keys clinked softly against her things. That was the moment I knew I was finally free from her shadow. I took a step back and watched as the rain began to fall, washing over the box, leaving it soaked and abandoned. It was a small act, but it felt powerful, like I was purging the remnants of a relationship that had turned toxic. A fresh start, free from the weight of lies and betrayal. I turned away, feeling the sting of tears I refused to shed. I'd lost her, yes, but I'd gained something I hadn't had in a long time: clarity. Trust is fragile, I realized. When it's gone, nothing can really fix that. Not apologies, not promises, not crying. What's broken stays broken unless you're willing to rebuild from the ground up, but sometimes it's better to walk away. That night, I sat alone in my living room, the rain tapping against the windows. I thought about everything: the warning signs I'd ignored, the moments I'd dismissed as small, the love I'd once believed in. But I also thought about the lessons I'd learned. Never ignore your gut. Never ignore the small red flags and never let someone you love betray you without consequences. In the end, I realized that revenge isn't about making someone hurt for hurting you. It's about reclaiming your dignity, your peace, and your future. It's about saying, I deserve better, and truly walking away from the toxic parts of your life. So I closed the door behind me that night, leaving the past in the rain. I knew I'd heal eventually. And someday I'd trust again in myself in the future. But for now, I just needed to move on. And that's what I did. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away and start over, no matter how much it hurts. Trust me, once the betrayal is out in the open, the only real choice is to take control and don't look back.